Okay, let's jump straight into this explainer. Today we're tackling a, well, kind of uncomfortable truth about workplace dynamics. Why simply surviving and actually thriving in your career requires a whole lot more than just hard work. I mean, we've all seen it happen, right? You put your head down, you do the grueling work, you hit every single target, and yet someone else seems to magically get the recognition, the promotions, and the trust. So why does that happen? Well, today we are going to completely unpack the mechanics of workplace perception and reputation.
I want to start with this absolutely beautiful metaphor from our source material because it perfectly sets up our entire discussion. Think of it like this. Your hard work, your talent, your excellent deliverables, that is the fragrance. It's inherently valuable. But your communication, your visibility, that is what opens the window. Because without that open window, even the sweetest, most amazing fragrance just stays hidden in a closed room.
Now, what's incredibly fascinating here is the core truth this reveals about office politics. A really simple way to understand perception in the workplace is exactly this. People do not react to your effort. They honestly can't see it. They aren't in your head experiencing your late nights. Instead, they react to the story they formed about you. And the story they believe, that dictates how much they trust you, your visibility, and ultimately, the opportunities you get.
Which brings us to the central puzzle we're unraveling today. How is it literally possible that two employees can do the exact same work, but the one who manages perception gets all the trust and opportunities? To figure this out, we're going to look at a super practical, real-world case study of two colleagues, Neha and Sneha. Section 1. The baseline. Same work, different stories. Let's look at our two colleagues. Neha and Sneha join their company on the literal exact same day. They both work equally hard, but they operate on a massive contrast of beliefs. Sneha assumes my work will speak for itself, so she finishes a task and stays totally silent. Neha, on the other hand, believes my work should speak, but people should also hear it. When Neha finishes up, she sends a quick update, thanks her teammates, asks for feedback, and speaks up calmly in meetings. Over time, managers didn't ignore Sneha intentionally, they just remembered the person they actually saw and heard more often.
Let's see how this actually plays out in specific roles, starting with HR. Both executives are tasked with hiring 20 employees. Sneha finishes the job perfectly but says nothing. She's like a workplace ninja, super effective but completely invisible. Neha finishes the exact same task, but she shares her weekly hiring progress, publicly appreciates the interview panel, and politely thanks the candidates. Because of this communication, managers soon start saying, hey, if there's an urgent hiring need, go ask Neha. Trust basically becomes her entire identity.
And we see the exact same dynamic over in operations. Both handle daily ops efficiently. Sneha solves issues quietly and moves on to the next thing. Neha solves the issues too, but then she sends a brief summary outlining the problem, the root cause, the solution, and how to prevent it going forward. Because she takes that one tiny extra step to communicate her problem solving, leadership naturally starts trusting her with much bigger responsibilities.
It's the same story in IT. Both developers fix difficult bugs. Sneha pushes the code, task complete. Neha pushes the code but writes simple release notes, explains the risks, and helps her teammates understand the fix. People naturally start thinking, wow, she doesn't only write code, she reduces confusion. By actively reducing that confusion, Neha establishes a perception of leadership long before she even has the title. Her perception changed before the designation ever did.
Section 2. The conflict. When silence turns to gossip.
Look, when perception isn't managed, false narratives can spread, like the totally baseless rumor that Neha only gets good ratings by copying replies. But what was actually happening? In the call process, while Sneha merely ended her calls, Neha was informing her team lead about recurring customer issues to suggest process updates. And in the chat process, she was noticing recurring problems, creating FAQs, and sharing shortcuts with her team. Without ever begging for credit, people just noticed her value. She built value, while others built rumors.
Now, when your professional credibility is unfairly challenged like that, the goal is definitely not to win a shouting match. The wrong reaction, jumping into the group chat to publicly pick a fight. Fighting fire with fire just creates a massive public spectacle, and suddenly everyone is grabbing popcorn instead of doing their jobs. The smart reaction is relying on facts. You stay totally calm, keep doing great work, collect your records, and inform leadership privately with hard facts, not emotions.
This is where reverse psychology becomes your best friend. True reverse psychology in the workplace comes down to how you invite transparency. Think about it. A guilty person would never ask for an audit. If you actively invite managers to review your call recordings or audit your compliance, your accusers instantly lose credibility. Transparency acts as an absolute shield.
Say an unexpected IT issue occurs, and someone falsely blames you. A poor communicator might rush to assign blame right back. A strong communicator, they follow these exact steps. They gather the system logs and timelines. They calmly join the incident review. And they just present the evidence showing where the issue originated, without pointing fingers. Documentation is literally always stronger than assumptions. By relying on hard facts instead of blowing up emotionally, your colleagues are forced to recognize your transparency. They logically have to ask themselves, wait, if she were really guilty of making these mistakes, why is she so incredibly calm? When you don't react with anger, false narratives completely lose their audience. Calm evidence neutralizes gossip way better than anger ever could.
Section 3. The resolution. Earning lasting trust.
At the end of the day, managing perception is about building an environment where people actually want to follow you. To truly stand out, you have to understand basic human emotion. Every single person fundamentally wants three things at work: to feel respected, to feel important, and to feel safe. The employee who gives these feelings to others, they become unforgettable. People rarely remember who the smartest person in the room was. They remember the person who made the work easier and the relationships lighter. When both women eventually step into leadership roles, their styles totally reflect their core beliefs. Sneha corrects mistakes publicly because she desires control, so her team just obeys out of fear. Neha, on the other hand, appreciates publicly, corrects privately, and listens before deciding. Her team deeply trusts her. And this hits the nail on the head. Leadership is not control. Leadership is the ability to make people willingly follow you.
Our source material boils this entire concept down to a pretty straightforward equation. Promotion is rarely based only on effort. Look at this first line. Performance plus visibility, trust, and communication equals opportunity and growth. But check out that second scenario. If you rely on performance only, doing amazing work but staying completely silent, your promotional track slows to an absolute crawl. Stagnation is the inevitable result when the window stays closed.
It all ultimately comes down to the narrative you're crafting. If you constantly complain, saying, "Nobody ever notices my work," well, eventually people unconsciously stop noticing it. You're actively writing a story of invisibility. But if you say, "I'm learning every day, let me know how I can improve," people naturally start looking for reasons to support you. The words you repeat literally become the identity others assign to you. So I want to leave you with this final, crucial thought for your own career. We know your work is excellent. You are absolutely putting in the effort, but effort alone just isn't enough if nobody knows it's there. So ask yourself, are you just producing a fragrance in a closed room, or are you actively opening the window to ensure the rest of the world actually gets to experience it? Take